stepped out of the car with his hands up there. Jim is overhead, and this there on the right-hand side of your screen is when about an hour ago when Jim arrived on the original scene there in Southwest 78th. This is kind of near 78th and Penn out there towards the airport. And again, they're loading the two deputies into ambulances. Again, two deputies were shot. Both rushed to the hospital. We're still awaiting word on their condition, and then that's Air One there, as we mentioned, that landed right there in the neighborhood. Those two deputies rushed again to OU and to OU Medical Center. You can see frantically those emergency responders there getting them to the ambulance. And then this is the pursuit that followed. The truck there with a boat attached, going down first I-35, then I-40. We're told firing at officers, knocking down construction barrels before this all ended there at Tinker Air Force Base. Again, this has been going on for about an hour, and several scenes. And again, Jim, you had to move a little bit, but you still got a pretty good sight there of the gate there at Tinker.
I'm sorry, Dana, were you pitching to me? I was listening to the tower. They were calling out traffic to me there.
I just said that I was just mentioning that they are making you move a little bit so that Tinker can go about their business there.
That's right, Dana. They had us move a little to the west of Sooner Road here, which is, to the west of Tinker there. Normally, it's just standard procedure that you have to stay 1 mile to either side of the extended runway. And right now, you're looking at the diagonal runway, but the 3-6 runway and the 1-8 runway is off there in the distance. So that's from the left side of your screen to the right side of your screen. So we have to stay at least 1 mile to either side of that. And they got some planes in here doing touch and goes and stuff. So we were just, well, there's the gate right there. So we were over that gate right there along with the other company, and they decided it was just too many and too little of a space there. So they asked us to move over to the west side of Sooner, but we're still able to get a long shot here of that Air Depot gate there, the north gate at Air Depot, where this pursuit ended. And that suspect driving that pickup, pulling that boat right there that started around Southwest 78th, came northbound on I-35, then eastbound on I-40. And when he took the Air Depot off-ramp, for whatever reason, I don't know if he just didn't know where he was going or he meant to pull in there. But when he pulled in there, he had guns drawn on him from the Air Force people that worked that gate, and then also all the police officers there. And he made a good decision, threw down his gun, and was taken into custody there. Now they've shut that Air Depot gate down, the north gate. You see the crime scene tape, and it's probably going to be shut down for quite some time here as they do their investigation. So again, this is the way it's going to be most of the afternoon from this location. And then the investigation goes on at Southwest 78th. And like you've been saying, we got reporters all out over the area here, down at the OU Medical Center, down at the scene where the two deputies were shot. And then at the scene here, we got Jennifer Pierce down at this location. So, these guys are gathering up all the information they can. They will have their PIO come and do a press conference, and that's when we'll find out the exact details of why the deputies were at that home and exactly what led up to that shooting, and then everything else that involved with this, and possibly what this person, if he had outstanding warrants and what he's wanted for, if he had any. All that information will come out when we have that press conference here. But right now you're looking at that north gate at Air Depot, and you see the suspect's vehicle, the pickup pulling the truck there that was in that high-speed pursuit. And we'll keep you updated. Jim Garber live from Bob Mills, Cody's 9. Back to you.
Jim, thank you. And yeah, we have crews all across the scenes as well as here in the newsroom trying to confirm some information that we are getting here into the newsroom. And as soon as we have that information confirmed, we will pass it on to you. Meanwhile, Augusta McDonald, she is out at OU Med. She has been keeping an eye on things out there. And Augusta, that's where both deputies were taken, correct?
That's right, Deanna. Both deputies transported here along with dozens of law enforcement officers who are here in support. Keep in mind, if you're traveling on Lincoln Boulevard, one of the lanes northbound is closed right now. There's a lot of law enforcement personnel, fire trucks here, so if you're in this area, definitely be careful, go slow. Like Jim said, we're waiting on that press conference to find out the conditions of both of the deputies that we know were shot today. We still have a lot of questions and information that we have not yet confirmed, but as Dana said, we'll pass it on as soon as it's available. Again, very busy here at OU Medical Center, at the trauma center. Ambulances we saw brought 2 officers here, and lots of activity. Two EMSA ambulances parked here. We know that there was lots of chaos. They were closing off this street as they were bringing those officers here, and now just waiting to find out more, waiting to find out how they're doing. As soon as that press conference happens, we'll make sure to get that on air as fast as possible. At OU Med, Augusta McDonald, Oklahoma's own News 9. Back to you.
Augusta, thank you. And of course, OU Health, the level 1 trauma center here in the city. So that is where they take the most serious cases. And we are told that at least one of these is very, very serious. As I'm not sure about both of them, but 2 deputies shot there and taken to OU Health, where several law enforcement officers are there supporting those 2 deputies, as well as likely getting any information that they can in this investigation. Of course, we are also awaiting information there about what exactly went down, why deputies were at that home to begin with, what could have, why this person decided to shoot possibly at deputies and then take off running. That led us here to what you're looking at, Tinker Air Force Base. Again, Jennifer Pierce is there. She's at Tinker Air Force Base. I don't know if she is standing by, okay. Jennifer is there at Tinker, and then Felice Romero is on the scene where this all started there in southwest Oklahoma City. Felice?
Yeah, we're here in a neighborhood in near Penn, and there is still a lot of police units. It's still a really active scene. We spoke to neighbors. One of them tells him he was actually just doing some work outside in his yard. He heard the shots fired, clearly kind of startled, went and tried to see what was happening, and just saw a bunch of police units racing down his street. Now, as you can see, there's still the tape that is blocked off. There's several officers and fire personnel down a few houses, so it looks like they're going to be out here for quite some time. Now, we're not too sure why they were originally at the house, but unfortunately 2 deputies were shot and then rushed to OU Health, and that's where the sheriff will be to give us more information on that. But as you can see, still several officers out here trying to speak to neighbors, trying to speak to witnesses, piece together exactly what happened. So it looks like they'll be here for a while, and of course we'll be out here getting the latest updates as they come to us. For now, reporting live in Oklahoma County, Felice Romero, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Felice, did that neighbor that you talked to, did they mention about how many shots they heard at all?
They said they heard about 10. Now, they said they weren't too sure, but they heard 10. They came running, trying to see what happens, and that's when they saw this kind of cluster here behind me. But again, he was telling me he's lived here for a couple of years, and it's pretty quiet, pretty family friendly, and so this clearly shook up the neighborhood, something that they are not used to seeing.
All right, Felice Romero, thank you for that information there. We also know that Jennifer Pierce, she is out there on the scene as well. She is at the gate there at Tinker Air Force Base. Jennifer, what are you hearing?
Well, Dana, that's right. I am here at the Tinker Air Depot visitor center entrance, the gate here, and I just wanted to pass along some information to folks who may be watching right now that they both Tinker once people to know that both the inbound and southbound gates, lanes into Tinker Air Force Base here at Air Depot are both closed, and they're asking folks to take an alternate route to be redirected to Vance Gate, which is on Sooner Road. And again, we are here waiting for the PIO for Oklahoma City, and I have not heard from OHP yet if they are also going to brief us, as they were involved in this pursuit of the shooting suspect. And again, we'll keep you updated as soon as we hear from police and get any extra information. Back to you.
Information there, Jen. I think shift change could be happening there at Tinker. I think Jim was saying around 3 o'clock, so folks need to know that to avoid that Air Depot gate there at Tinker Air Force Base. Of course, Jim has been overhead as this whole thing unfolded over the past about an hour and 10 minutes now. Jim, anything you can add?
Well, Dana, I can tell you right now, the pickup that you see right in the middle of your screen, that is the CSI crime investigation. People have just showed up on scene here. They will start photographing and then, just documenting everything, and that's just standard procedure here. But, just like pretty much what we've been saying all afternoon, just avoid this Air Depot North Gate on Air Depot. And just avoid it. You're going to have to find another, go to another gate to enter Tinker at around 3 o'clock, I think, is when one of the shift changes happens. And just stay clear of this area, because this has been going on for quite some time, Dana. But that's about the only new thing that's happened out here. Like I said, crime scene investigation just now arrived on scene at the gate here, and they will start gathering evidence and photographs. And like I said, it'll be closed for quite some time. Jim Gar reporting live from Bob Mills, Cody's 9. Back to you.
Jim, thank you. We appreciate it, and we are just staying on the air here because of this very serious situation that has unfolded here since about 1:20 this morning, when we got news and word into our newsroom that shots were been fired at a deputy. We quickly learned that at least one deputy had been shot. You can see them being loaded there on the stretcher and then taken to the ambulance. This is Jim overhead here on the right side of your screen earlier today. That is one deputy being loaded into the ambulance. You see Air One landed right there on the street. Don't see that very often in the middle of a neighborhood. Now, this is the second deputy here, we presume being taken to another ambulance. Both were rushed to OU Medical Center, where Augusta McDonald is standing by right now, hopefully getting briefed by the sheriff pretty soon as to their condition. Then this happened. This is the suspect that led police. You can see all those officers there on a chase. First down I-35, then I-40. We heard that he was firing shots out of his vehicle there. He's hauling a boat, wiping out construction cones, and then made a bad exit right there, right into the Air Depot gate there. And you can see he gets out, opens the door right there, throws out a rifle, which Jim said he thought it looked like an AR-15, hands up, and then was tackled by not only Tinker. You can see those Tinker folks have their guns drawn. They're not messing around. Tackled him, put him in custody, and then we saw that he was basically had his arms and feet tied when they finally put him into a police vehicle. So what led up to all of this, we are still working to find out, confirm a little bit more information before we pass that on to you. What happened with this suspect, who this is, why police, why sheriff's deputies were at his door, or if that was his house, and why those two sheriff's deputies were shot, as well as what seems to be probably the most pressing news right now as to the condition of those two deputies that were shot. And that is what Augusta McDonald is keeping an eye on for us. She is at OU Health. Augusta?
Dana, thank you. Here at the hospital, lots of activity, lots of officers going in and out of the hospital, but we don't have any information yet. We're standing by for a press conference where the sheriff's office will tell us hopefully the condition of those deputies. There's a lot we still don't know at this point. It was about 30 minutes ago we saw a couple of ambulances come rushing into the ambulance and trauma center, delivering those injured officers to the trauma center. And since then, there has been a couple dozen vehicles stationed around the hospital waiting for word. We're seeing some officers coming, going. They've closed one lane of the northbound lanes of Lincoln Boulevard, but still so many questions as to the condition of those deputies at this point. And as soon as we have that information, we will bring it to you. Live at the hospital, Augusta McDonald, Oklahoma's own News 9. Back to you.
Augusta, thank you. And if you have been with us through this whole thing, you just heard Felice Romero report about what a witness says, told her about what happened there at the original scene. This is the original scene there on Southwest 78th. And we have that sound edited for you. And let's listen to see what that witness says he heard.
Like boom, boom, boom. I thought it was like concrete work, guys working on like concrete and stuff. And yeah, I continued working on my razor and I saw cops riding past and I was like, oh, like what? So I got up and went to go look out there and like 10 cops were down there.
Again, that is a witness there in that original neighborhood where this whole thing started. Felice says he told her he heard about 10 gunshots there before all the police moved in. And of course, we now know 2 deputies were shot there. We don't know how many shots were fired total, who shot at who. That is all information that we are hoping to get here soon. We know that Sheriff Tommy Johnson is headed out there to OU Medical Center, so he can hopefully give us some information. And then Jennifer Pierce, our crime tracker, is also working her sources, and we're told maybe an OKC police information officer is headed out to her to give her more information about what happened and how this unfolded there at Tinker Air Force Base. Again, we want to remind folks that that gate there that you're looking at, this is the Air Depot gate there, the north gate at Tinker Air Force Base. If you are coming into work there, avoid that gate. You can see that you are not getting in or out. The folks there at Tinker told Jennifer to go ahead and use another gate. You can see there the crime scene tape is all up there, and it'll probably be there for quite a while, knowing everything that has unfolded this afternoon. Again, let's check back in with Jim. He has been overhead for this whole thing. Jim, looks like there's still quite a bit of investigating going on there.
Well, that's right, Dana. Now that you see at the bottom of your screen the 2 wreckers that have just now arrived on scene, you know, 1 wrecker for the boat, 1 for that truck. So once the CSI, which is the white pickup with the camper on the back of it, that's the crime investigation people. Once they get done with all their stuff, then they will let those wreckers in there to remove that vehicle and boat. And then shortly after that, hopefully, they will get this gate back open. But again, this is not a process that happens really fast. It takes a very tedious, takes a long time and stuff. So again, you know, as that shift change comes, we keep saying over and over, please find another gate to go to get into Tinker Air Force Base, because this air depot gate, the north gate, is going to be closed. But at least they got the wreckers on scene for once when they get the call to go in and to get those that vehicle, that pickup, pulling that boat and get them out of there. Hopefully it won't be too much longer after that gate opens up. But again, this is just the aftermath of that, you know, like we've been saying, that 2 sheriff deputies that got shot at Southwest 78th, around the 2100 block, which puts it about 1 block to the west of Penn and just south of I-240 in that neighborhood is where that home was, where the 2 sheriff deputies got shot. And then while we were dealing with that, somebody either gave the police a description of the vehicle and the suspect, and the police were able to find that suspect vehicle, which, you know, a pickup pulling a boat at a high rate of speed is pretty easy to pick out. And Air 1 broke from the scene once he lifted the ground there. He made the call on the radio to Will Rogers, said, I'm leaving to go pick up the suspect vehicle. And so we followed him, made the decision to follow him, and then we picked the pursuit up going northbound on I-35 there, and then up to I-40. It went eastbound, and then he got off an air depot. Now, if he made a decision to do that on purpose or it was just a mistake, But anyway, he got off on Air Depot, which goes nowhere to the south, but right into the Tinker Air Force gate there. And he had no place to go because he had Air Force airmen with guns drawn in front of him, and then he had several police officers behind him, so he had no place to go. And that's when he threw down his weapon and was taken into custody. And obviously he wasn't being very cooperative because they had him hogtied when they brought him to the vehicle. And normally they do that when the suspect is trying to kick you in the face, not cooperating or whatever. They have to hog time, so that, for the safety of the officers, so you don't get a foot up in the face or whatever. And then they brought him back and put him in the vehicle, and that's where it all ended right here. Now the CSI people are on scene to get their information and to shoot the scene, and then the wreckers are just waiting to get the call to come in there and take that truck and that boat out of here. So that's where we stand. Dana, Jim Gar reporting live from Bob Mills, Cody's 9. Back to you.
Jim, thank you once again there over that gate where this all ended at Air Depot Gate there at Tinker Air Force Base. We also know Jennifer Pierce. She is on the ground there. She has also been working her law enforcement sources and talking to the folks at Tinker. Jim, Jen, anything new?
Well, Dana, I have heard that from OHP, and it will most likely be Oklahoma City Police taking the lead on this, informing us about what happened with the pursuit and the investigation as well as far as the shooting. Now, if you take a look behind me, Oklahoma City Police continue to show up to this scene here at Tinker. We are at the north entrance of the Air Depot Gate, and Tinker wants folks to know that if you're headed this way, you are not going to be able to get in or out of this gate whatsoever. They are redirecting all traffic to the Anderson Gate, which is on Sooner Road. So you want to keep that in mind, especially as Jim said, during shift change, or if you're just coming out to the base as a visitor. Now, we did see the CSI truck come in earlier, so we do know that this is now an official crime scene investigation, and they will be taking all of the evidence from the suspect's vehicle and anything else that may be on the ground or, damage to Tinker Air Force Base. But you had a very good vantage point of seeing the scene from above. Right here where I'm standing, I cannot even see the suspect's car or the boat that he was hauling. It's all behind this visitor center right here. But again, we are waiting for the Oklahoma City Public Information Officer to show up so they can fill us in on some of the questions we have about how this all started, how it turned into a pursuit, and obviously if they have any information about why the suspect turned into Tinker Air Force Base. And again, this is a crime scene, and it will be locked down for quite a while as this investigation goes on. Now, we do know that 3 of the Oklahoma City divisions are out here. 3 different divisions for Oklahoma City Police, they responded to this, so they knew it was going to be a very violent, possibly, crime scene here at Tinker Air Force Base, and they had all hands ready involved. And of course, OHP was involved in that chase as well. And I'll send it back to you, and as soon as we hear from the Public Information Officer, I'll let you know. Back to you, Dana.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Of course, several law enforcement agencies there involved, obviously, in this investigation. You got a sheriff's deputy, the sheriff's department, deputies shot. You got OKCPD, you got Tinker, you got the federal government involved, as well as OHP because of that chase heading up and down I-35 and I-40. We are expecting within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm told, to be briefed by the Oklahoma County Sheriff and get some more information on that. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand things over to Carl and Amanda, who are there in the studio. Guys?
Dana, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're looking at live team coverage here on what has been a dramatic last couple of hours in the metro here, with 2 deputies being shot by a suspect who ended up leading police and law enforcement on a chase that finally came to an end.
Okay, and I'm just hearing from the producer that we're getting ready for a press conference to start. Is that already beginning? Let's listen in.
We're live, sorry, y'all. It's a sad day for the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to keep it together for you. It's a sad day for the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office. We had 2 deputies that were serving papers. lockout papers. The individual at the front door then went around to the back door, and that's when he shot the first deputy, second deputy.
I want to
Okay.
stay with this shot, and hopefully we can get the audio figured out, because such an emotional moment right now for the Oklahoma County Sheriff. Please let me know as soon as we get his audio fixed, because he is having a very hard time as he talks about two deputies.
Sheriff Tommy Johnson there getting emotional, calling it a sad day. I believe I heard him say that the two deputies, they were serving papers. He called it lockout papers, so like kind of an eviction notice, and then they were going to the side of the house, and that's when shots rang out from inside the house to the suspect shooting out two deputies.
You can just see the emotion on his face, and if for some reason we do not get his audio back up, I still want to stay with this shot just in case. As soon as this is over,
Okay, let's go back to it.
We're still live, Aaron. Can you walk through again what happened here today?
Several deputies were serving lockout papers, very routine. At some point, the person who was inside the house opened fire.
Do we know the extent of the injuries at this time?
We know the injuries are serious.
To both deputies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear from the doctors exactly how bad things are, but they're serious. And
how long have those deputies been with you guys?
I'm not sure. Both quite some time. They're
at least 20 years.
They're very experienced.
Veteran officers.
Because when we were on our way to the scene there down on the south side, we saw a man hauling a boat with about 30 to 40 sheriff deputies behind it. Can you explain what was going on there, sir?
I'm not sure if that was the suspect, was it? Yeah, that was the suspect. He was fleeing. Oklahoma City police are taking that part of the investigation. So as far as how they caught him and exactly how that went down, you'll have to ask them. We're all just here.
How many shots, if you know, how many shots were
Don't
fired?
even know at this point.
Is this fatal at this time?
At this point, we're praying for both deputies.
What's your message to the community as everybody's waiting to find out their condition?
Pray.
Aaron, this is the kind of thing that these guys do every day. Can you describe that, how these people, you talk about routine police work, but there really isn't any, is there?
This was about as routine as it gets. These guys, what they do is they do lockouts and serve papers, and that's pretty much all they do, and they do it extraordinarily well. These deputies are very well trained. This is the thing that they do 8, 10, 12 hours per day, every single day. And I've been out with both of them numerous times, and they're both professional, extremely professional and extremely careful. Unfortunately, something went wrong.
Are we able to know the names of these deputies?
Not yet.
Have the families been notified?
Not yet.
So when you say lockout warrant, what exactly is that warrant?
Basically, it's not a lockout warrant, it's just a lockout order. So basically, it's an order from the court telling the person they have to leave the residence. And generally, those go very peacefully. Generally, it's a question of serving paperwork on a door, coming back a few days later, and 9 times out of 10, the person has already vacated the premises. That wasn't the case this time around.
Was he the only person that was in the residence that you know of, or you don't know yet?
I don't know.
And I may have missed this, but what's the update on the suspect?
He's been captured. Yeah, any of that, you'll have to go through Oklahoma City PD. They're the ones that handled the chase. And
Has the weapon been released?
been released.
Any information about the weapon that was used?
Not just yet, no.
Okay.
Not just
Do we
yet.
know if any schools were on lockdown or anything?
I'm not aware of any, no.
Okay. Okay.
Is the county going to be doing the investigation on the
I think OKCPD is doing the investigation, yeah. And they're also going to be helping us with patrols and, yeah.
Is this something first of its kind that you guys have dealt with?
In terms of
a
a deputy being shot?
Yes, 2.
I don't think that we've had a deputy shot in over 100 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you got the news yourself, what was going through your mind?
They're my friends.
guys allowed to go and see them in their?
They're getting some visitors. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You just heard from Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Aaron Brobeck, basically taking over the news conference there because Sheriff Tommy Johnson was just getting too emotional there and couldn't continue anymore, describing that they're praying for both deputies.
Emotional just hearing from both of them. You might recognize Aaron Brobeck. He used to be a reporter here. He is now a spokesperson for the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, and this is not a press conference he wanted to give, I can tell you that, and you can just see the emotion, hear it in his voice as he talked about how this is such a sad day because these are two deputies who were shot, but these are friends. These are people that they know, they work with day in and day out, and the way they describe them too as being so good at what they do.
Yeah, veteran, well-trained, and usually they do this stuff and it always goes smoothly. He said about, 9 out of 10 times these kind of notices go smooth. There's no incident whatsoever. The person leaves peacefully. That wasn't the case here. And if we heard from the sheriff, Tommy Johnson, correctly, I know we had some audio problems there, but it sounds like those deputies were kind of going on the side of the house, and that's when gunfire just came from inside the home.
Exactly. Aaron said that this is as routine as it gets when it comes to their type of work. They do this every single day. And then, of course, that individual opened fire and then took off from there. A chase ensued. And that is going to be up to OCPD, Oklahoma City Police, to fill us in on exactly what happened there and how that ended. If we can take another live look outside, if Jim's up, we can take his shot and take a look at the scene. This is where it ended. So we just had the press conference. That was at the OU Medical Center. That is where the two deputies are. But this right now, a live look at where the scene ended and the suspect's vehicle right there. Yeah, Jim, if you could provide any update here on exactly what's going on. I know that gate's going to be locked down there, the main gate at Tinker there off Air Depot. What's the case there now?
Well, right now, Carl, what you're looking at is the CSI people. Like I said, it's taped off. The CSI people showed up. You can see that one CSI person right there taking pictures. She'll take several pictures of that boat and the truck and all the evidence where the gun's laying and all that. They'll have to get pictures of absolutely everything around this crime scene area because this is a crime scene area now. This is where the chase ended. After going eastbound on I-40, the suspect exited Air Depot, and Air Depot goes right into the north gate of Tinker Air Force Base, where he came to a stop, and when he had guns drawn on him by the Air Force officers that guard that gate and police behind him, he decided to give up. But now CSI is working that scene. Once they get done taking their pictures and then bagging the evidence, which would be the gun and anything else out of that pickup, you see the wreckers there that will go in and get that boat and get that truck and get it out of there, and then hopefully that gate will open back up soon after that. But it's not going to be any time soon. Like I said, this is very meticulous. They have to record everything at this scene, and like I said, you can see all the pictures they were taking right there. So again, that's what's going on at this scene right now, and as we get more information, we'll keep you updated. Jim Garpoint live from Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Back to you.
Jim, we appreciate it, and we just want to get kind of an idea of what you were seeing from the air before this point, before the chase ended there. We're looking at video now of some of the chase. About how long before the shots rang out, before police were able to pick up on this pickup and the driver carrying a boat there? How long, and what did you see it from the sky?
Well, Carl, we arrived on scene just as the two deputies were being loaded into the ambulances there. And Air One, he had actually made a call that he was going to land in the street and take one of the deputies if he could. It was that serious. And he did land in the street. You see our footage, of him sitting in the street. Sometimes it's a little difficult if they're not rigged up for EMS stretchers. It's hard to put a person in there, and if they're that serious, there's probably no way that they could have fit that stretcher inside Air One because they're not configured exactly like EMS helicopters. So they took them in the ambulance. Now, shortly right after they got loaded, that's when I heard the call from Air One to Will Rogers Tower that he was departing eastbound, because when you're in an airport traffic area, Carl, and I'll make it real quick here, there's an airport traffic area of 5 miles around the airport and to a certain altitude. Well, you have to be on, normally on the tower frequency if you're inside that 5 mile ring. Once you leave that 5 mile ring, you go to approach frequency. which is the next is in a 10-mile ring. You can go to approach frequency. He asked for a switch to approach that he was going to pick up a suspect vehicle car northbound on I-35. We were still over the scene, so we were trying to get confirmation if we should leave the scene or not and go pick that up. I just went ahead and broke the scene and followed Air 1 into I-35, and that's when I seen the large line of police officers. And then Rich was able, because I'm not always looking at at the monitor and seeing what the cameraman's shooting. I'm looking outside, looking for traffic, looking for everything, looking for things that approach, or Will Rogers Towers calling out to me traffic or whatever. So I'm mainly looking outside most of the time, and I glanced over and saw that Rich had the boat, picked the car out, the pickup, pulling the boat. I didn't know what car it was until Rich zoomed in on it and saw him swerve with that boat. I thought he was going to lose it then. And then shots were being fired going up I-35 northbound from there. And then he took the turn to go eastbound on I-40 through the Fort Smith Junction. And I really thought, Carl Amanda, that this would go on out east, out on I-40 east towards Shawnee. But for some reason, he slowed down and he took the Air Depot gate. And of course, that goes nowhere but right into the north gate here off Air Depot Drive. And once he went in there, there was a lot, this could have ended really bad in several ways, because there was a lot of cars there at the gate coming in and out. And he just weaved in and out of them and weaved in there to where he couldn't go any farther. And that's when the airmen drew their pistols, because they knew something wasn't right, and drew their pistols. And then he got out, dropped his AR-15, and then surrendered. That's when he was tackled by Oklahoma City police officers. There were several agencies involved in this. Oklahoma City, the sheriff's office, Oklahoma County Sheriff's, OHP, and there were other agencies, I'm sure, involved in this, because they were definitely wanting to get this guy and stuff. But it came to a peaceful ending. Hopefully nobody got hurt. And like I said, if there were shots fired coming up I-35, it may be a while before they get information that somebody's car was struck by a bullet, or somebody was grazed by a bullet, which we hope is not the case at all. But when you're running down the middle of an interstate and you got a guy firing an AR-15 out the window at you, you always worry about those stray bullets, where they're going to end up. And we may find out some information on that later on. But again, it was just been a really crazy afternoon, but we got to turn from this and really think about those two deputies now that are at the OU Medical Center and their families, and our prayers go out to them that they're okay.
Prayers, that's exactly what the Sheriff's Department is asking everybody to do at this moment. Jim, thank you so much for giving us all that great background as to what happened, what led up to the end here. Are we hearing anything about this truck and the boat? Do we think it's stolen, or we think it's just his vehicle and his boat right there that he took off in?
No, man, that's just one of them many questions that hopefully we'll get answered. We don't know if he just went somewhere and jumped in his truck and it had a boat on it, or if like you said, if it's his and the boat is his. And, all that stuff will come out, when the final press conference happens here, and they break this down to exactly what happened and why. But they are working this pickup over in this boat. They're taking several pictures. They're taking their time. I don't know if they're, I'm sure they're probably looking for more weapons, more contraband in the vehicle or the boat, either one. But that's a good question, Amanda. Was this his vehicles, or did he steal it from a neighbor's yard or whatever? That's a really good question. But like I said, we'll find that information out when they finally get this all wrapped up, and then they have the really big press conference where they actually lay out everything that happened. Jim Garpoint live for Bob Mills, Sky News 9, back to you.
And Jim, hang with me, because we're expecting that press conference to happen within the next couple of minutes from Oklahoma City Police to talk about the chase and where this ended. But Jim, I want your insight, because you have a really interesting vantage point there from Bob Mills, Sky News 9, up in the air. Once this guy took the exit, did he have any other options, or was Tinker Air Force Base it?
That was it. Once you can see the road there, you can see the off-ramp, and it makes that south turn. There's really no place to go unless you jump the road and go across those grass medians and try to get on the lane coming back north, which would be from the right of your screen back to the left. That would be northbound. Right now you're looking to the southbound off-ramp lane, and that just goes directly right into Tinker. Now, you got to understand, Amanda, when he got off, that ramp and that drive right there was pretty much had a whole lot of vehicles in it for people trying to get into Tinker Air Force Base there and stuff. So he weaved in and out of traffic and got over to right there, and that's as far as he could go, and that's where he was met. Because they had, they have the stop signs, they have the gates down, the little arms, that have stop on them. So you always got to pull up there at the stop sign, and they raise the gate, and you pull up, and then the guy checks your ID and what you're doing there, and then let you in. So he couldn't go past that. But once the Air Force personnel that worked those gates saw him weaving in and out of traffic, they knew something wasn't right, and all the police vehicles, so they drew their guns and they were ready. And but like I said, there was absolutely no place for him to go once he took that. So I just don't know if he, you just don't know if he was not familiar with the area and didn't really know where Air Depot went, or he decided this is where he was going to get off. Like I said, all that's going to come out in the big press conference, of exactly why here. But again, there's still so many details that we want to know. Why that you would, since it was just a lockout order, which what he explained is basically, kind of eviction notice that you have to leave the premises, why this person would assault two Oklahoma Sheriff deputies over a lockout order. Like I said, normally they get it, they come back in 2 days and the person's gone, or they have to, serve them again. But this person, for whatever reason, decided to just to shoot the deputies, and then either this was his vehicle or steal a vehicle and get into a pursuit here with Oklahoma City. And that's one of the things that viewers got to understand too, that the scene down where the sheriff deputies were shot, since those are Oklahoma Sheriff deputies, Oklahoma County Sheriffs will be handling that investigation. Once he got away and it fled and Oklahoma City picked it up, then Oklahoma City's involved with it. Then if you get the OHP, which OHP controls and runs the interstates and the other highways in Oklahoma, then they're involved in it. So I don't know if the OHP, I think I heard last time that OHP is just going to completely step out of this and let the Oklahoma City handle this part of the pursuit side of it there. So again, that's where we stand, Amanda. And like I said, we'll just wait for more new information. Jim Carpenter live from Bob Mills, Scott News 9. Back to you.
Hey, Jim, real quick, I can't get out of my mind here the shot of Air One in the street right there, potentially trying to help the deputy get to the hospital. I know it didn't happen, but you've been doing this for a long time. Have you ever seen Air One land in a neighborhood for those reasons?
No, I really haven't. Carl, not here. I know of it happening in Los Angeles and out in that area and stuff, because some of their helicopters, some of the helicopters out there, their air support helicopters are also rigged to where they can take a stretcher. So I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure if Air One has that special rigging in the helicopter where they can handle a stretcher. I would imagine they don't, or if they did, it was just so serious and that they didn't, once they got the sheriff deputies on those gurneys, they didn't want to move them off that gurney into a helicopter, because you have to put them on a different board. You have to put them on and slide them in there and lock them in. And I think it was just, that Air One's not rigged up to take that kind of a gurney in the helicopter. And of course, when something like that, when your law enforcement companions, are involved in a shooting, get shot or whatever, and it's serious, you're just trying to do anything to help. And, I mean, for him, if he was able to take that stretcher, for him to land and them throw that stretcher in there and get it locked down, I mean, he'd have been at the hospital a whole lot quicker than the ambulance. But I think that's just, and that's, hey, I'd do the same thing, if I think I could get him there quicker, I would do it. And he put it down. He did a very skillful job of setting it down in the street. He didn't endanger anybody. He put it where he needed to be. And I think it was so serious that they had to get him. And plus another thing, let me back up a little bit. Another thing is they're not carrying a nurse on board. They'd have to have somebody on the ground get in there with them, and they're not rigged up to really do that either. So I think it just come to the decision that it was probably better for them to put them in the ambulance. They got everything there. They got the EMTs and to work and you know, get them there as quick as possible. But you can't fault Air One at all for offering his services to do that, because I would do the same thing if it was some of my people that I work with that I knew that was in very serious condition.
Absolutely, Jim. You do what you can, whatever you can do. That's what officers and deputies were doing there today, this afternoon, and just kind of gives you an idea of how serious this situation was just from the jump, right when they hear shots are fired.
And just that story, too, it reiterates how personal this is for those deputies out there, the people that are showing up, that not only are they responding to an emergency, but they're responding to an emergency of someone they love, someone they know very well. And we saw earlier on with the sheriff, as he was beginning to talk, he totally broke up, and it was just too much, really, because of all the emotion, because these are people that he worked with. These are two veteran sheriff's deputies who were shot, and as for their condition right now, we're waiting to get that. All that they would tell us is that both injuries very serious, and they said, quote, pray for both deputies. Yeah. Now, you're looking at the two scenes. Okay, there's the live look right now. This is where it all ended. This is the Tinker Air Force Base. If you go west from there about 10 miles, you're going to wind up pretty close to Will Rogers World Airport. You're going to wind up a little bit closer to OCCC, Oklahoma City Community College, and that's where all of this started. That's where our Felice Romero, she joins us live there on the ground. And Felice, we know that you've been talking to neighbors. What's the very latest that you're hearing out there?
Yeah, a lot of developments, Amanda, in the last 30 minutes. First of all, you got a lot of scared parents here on this street. They said there was a heavy police presence here around 1, and then within 15 minutes, they got a notification that their child's school just across the way was going into a lockdown. Now, of course, we know that they were safe, but just a scary, scary time for parents. And now, of course, it's drop-off time. Some of the families a little bit confused on bus drop-offs, but overall, just thankful that the suspect is now in custody. Again, we now know those two deputies were originally in this neighborhood to serve lockout paperwork when things took a turn. And those deputies, of course, now at OU Health. But as you can see, this scene is still very active. Just in the couple hours that we've been here, there have been several investigators that have come on scene. They're still conducting interviews, and they still have it taped off. Now, it's going to be like this for the next few hours. But again, we talked to a lot of witnesses that were pretty worried for their kids, just for those brief moments that the schools were on lockout. And then now, of course, their kids are starting to come back. But a lot of people say this was a family-friendly neighborhood, a lot of kids playing, a lot of families out barbecuing and having a good time. So this was a pretty big shock for them out there. Now, we're going to have more as the story develops. But for now, reporting live in Oklahoma City, Felice Romero, Oklahoma Zone, News 9.
Felice, great work down there at the scene where this all began, that neighborhood near Penn and Southwest 78. That's probably the closest cross street for you, where just this horrible scene started to unfold as two sheriff's deputies go to serve what we probably would commonly call eviction papers. Pretty routine. And that's when a suspect opened fire, hitting both of them. And then the guy makes a break for it with his pickup truck and the boat in tow. And it wasn't too long after that that they were spotted, and police were en route of this police chase here. We have video. We're getting all sorts of video into our newsroom. This is video from a viewer of this police chase going on. We want to show that to you now. So this is, you look at the police presence right there. I mean, this is going up and down I-35 and I-40 before he finally makes that turn to Tinker and the thing ends. But gosh, you see how many officers were en route there. This guy was driving out of control, and I'm surprised that he didn't lose control with the boat in the back. It looked like that boat was just going to swing out.
No kidding. He hit a lot of construction barriers along the way.
It's amazing that no one else was hurt when this went down. I mean, look at this boat right here. And this guy's, boom, he's in the shoulder right there. He's just frantic, has no idea really where he's going, and we don't think. I mean, it makes that turn off of I-40 into Tinker right there. But, you know, we heard from Jim Gardner talking about how it's a miracle no one else is hurt during this, and that when you look at video, you see why he said that. I mean, this is amazing right here.
I know we just saw it, but could we re-rack that video the viewer just sent us of all those police cars, that chase ensuing there on I-35? This is it, okay? I just want to give us a second look now that we have a chance. Counting these police cars, all, well, I should say most of them Oklahoma City police. They're the ones who initiated this. We have at least, what would you say, Carl, 24 different Oklahoma City and law enforcement vehicles there. And speaking of Oklahoma City Police, just got an email from their spokesperson, and they said that within the next couple of minutes, they're going to be heading to the Tinker Air Force Base to be giving us a news conference so that they can tell us a little bit more about what all they had to do to get this guy to stop.
And right now, we're kind of going off of what we're hearing from Oklahoma County deputies, and the Sheriff Tommy Johnson, he was just so emotional today, talking about, I mean, I think we were ready for the news that maybe one of these deputies had died. That isn't the case. He hasn't said that, but he said to pray for both deputies. Aaron Brillbeck, the spokesperson, had to finish that news conference. Let's hear from Aaron now.
Several deputies were serving lockout papers, very routine. At some point, the person who was inside the house opened fire.
Do we know the extent of the injuries at this time?
We know the injuries are serious.
To both deputies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear from the doctors exactly how bad things are, but they're serious. At this point, we're praying for both deputies.
What's your message to the community as everybody's waiting to find out their condition?
Pray.
You see spokesperson Aaron Brillbeck right there, former News 9 reporter, if you remember him from his days here, just getting emotional talking about and Aaron, I mean, we know Aaron, this has been a career change for him going that, but he's super close to those deputies. He went through the academy to become one himself, and I think he was just deputized like in the last week or two ago. So for him, it's even more emotional for those reasons.
Well, and then he knows them as well. He said several times he's been out with those two particular deputies as they do what he just describes as routine work. 8 hours every day going and serving eviction notices and just serving the different papers, the lockout papers as they call it, to get people to leave, which he said is mostly very safe work, except for, as we just saw today. I understand we have just also heard from police, and she is going out to the, Captain Littlejohn is going out to the Tinker Air Force Base. So we're going to hear from her momentarily.
That's right.
Do we have Jennifer Pierce available?
I think Jennifer Pierce is at Tinker now. She's going to give us more on the investigation there. That's the investigation the Oklahoma City Police are now handling. Jen, what is the latest there from the Tinker Air Force Base?
Well, Carl, as you said, this is just one of the investigation scenes. The original investigation scene is in southwest Oklahoma City, near Southwest 78th and Penn. Oklahoma City, I've confirmed, is handling that investigation. Their homicide unit is handling that. They handle all officer-involved shootings. We're not saying this is a homicide, but their homicide department investigates any type of officer-involved shooting. They are handling that at that scene. Now here, we also have homicide, part of the officer-involved shooting investigators here at this scene, but this is more so just collecting some more evidence that the suspect was in the truck, the boat. Behind me is the Tinker Air Force Base visitor gate, and it has been shut down since just before 2 o'clock. And they are directing everyone, saying that this is not going to be, you can't go in or out of this gate. And they're directing everyone to the Vance gate, which is on Sooner Road. Now back to the investigation here. As Jim said earlier, the crime scene unit is out here, and they will be out here for a while to collect all the evidence that was inside the truck, outside the truck. And we do know that Captain Valerie Littlejohn just showed up to the scene. She is the one who will brief us on the investigation, point A to point B and anything in between. As you were asking about we'll ask about, you know, why Air One stopped in that neighborhood and what they were doing, possibly picking up one of the patients. We'll be able to ask her about that. And really what happened from the beginning, what led him here to the Tinker Air Force Base. And I'm sure they've taken him downtown for questioning as well. And of course, they also do like They do a medical evaluation to see if he had any injuries. But we will bring you Captain Littlejohn here just momentarily. She had to speak with the investigators here at this scene to get updated on any new information. Back to you.
Yeah, Jim, we appreciate, she mentioned that homicide detectives are on scene there at the original house where deputies were trying to serve this eviction notice, the lockout papers, and that's what they do anytime an officer's shot. So it doesn't mean that a homicide has occurred. It just means that this is what they do.
And about a crime scene about 10 miles apart, because you have that crime scene and then where it all ended there at Tinker Air Force Base. And then, of course, along the way, as this guy was taking police, probably about 24 officers on a chase, and just happened to take a wrong turn or a right turn, depending on how we're looking at it, because it ended. Went right into Tinker Air Force Base. He had nowhere else to go, and he had to give up. He had to throw out his rifle.
Threw out the rifle there, and you saw right when he got out of the car, he started pulling down his pants to show that he didn't have anything on him, you know?
Well,
and then they're not gonna, at that point, they're gonna do what they can to get that guy to the ground and get him in handcuffs. So totally understandable how you would how do you approach that situation if you were law enforcement facing those similar details. Okay, we are going to go now, I believe, back to the neighborhood, the original neighborhood. We do want to check in with Felice Romero. She's been talking with neighbors there, including, I know people who heard the gunshots when it all happened, just that rapid boom, 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 the original gunshots fired presumably from the suspect inside the house. Felice, go ahead.
Yeah, we're out here at the neighborhood, still a very active scene. Just to put things in perspective for you all, we spoke to this family here. He was outside working on his razor, just kind of having a great Monday afternoon when suddenly things shifted. He hears several shots fired and then a bunch of police units heading to this neighborhood, clearly a very scary situation. And then he comes out to find crime scene tape going up and several units and investigators filling his neighborhood. So a very scary situation. He says he has 2 young kids that were actually in school nearby. They went under a brief lockdown and then of course it was lifted, but overall just very grateful that they got the suspect. He said this is really unexpected. It's a family-friendly neighborhood. Oftentimes kids playing together on their bikes, having a great time. So this was a really big shakeup for a lot of young families that live here. Now, as you can see, there's still several investigators, several police cars, so it looks like we'll be here for at least a couple more hours. But, you know, neighbors tell me they're just grateful that the suspect is in custody.
Like, boom, boom, boom. I thought it was, like, concrete work, guys working on, like, concrete and stuff. And, yeah, I continued working on my razor, and I saw cops riding past, and I was like, oh, like, what? So I got up and went to go look out there, and, like, 10 cops were down there just.
Now, we will hear from several other neighbors throughout the night, and we will be here for quite some time just waiting for updates. That's going to do it for me out here in Oklahoma County. Felice Romero, Oklahoma's Own, News 9.
It's great work talking to people out there. I would, if we could still have Felice and she can still hear me, I would like her just to talk about if anybody's mentioned who this guy is, because if that's, of course, one of the many questions we have. One of the big ones is, who is this guy? Felice, has anybody said anything about this guy? Have they seen him around the area before?
Yeah, I mean, we have been asking that question, and a lot of people say they really haven't heard or seen much from that house. You know, like I mentioned, they tend to hang out with their families and some other young families in the neighborhood, but they really don't know much about that house or those that live in there. But of course, we'll keep asking those questions as we see more neighbors.
You will. Yeah. Felice Romero reporting live for us in Southwest Oklahoma City, where it really all started at the home where these 2 deputies went to serve what they call lockout papers, what we maybe think of as eviction notices.
This is right around 1 o'clock today in Southwest Oklahoma City off of Southwest 78th, and from what we understand, at some point the deputies were going around the house and the shots came from the side of the home. I believe that's what we learned from spokesperson Aaron Brobeck, Oklahoma County deputies, and obviously the officer, the deputy, was shot twice. You see Air 1 there, which is kind of an eerie scene. I mean, obviously the Oklahoma City Police knew how serious this was from the get-go. They put Air 1 down in hopes that maybe they could transport one of these deputies to the hospital. That wasn't the case. They were both taken by ambulance now, and the word that we're getting on them is that very serious injuries, and to pray for them both. And both Sheriff Tommy Johnson got emotional just trying to give us an update on exactly what happened and how his deputies are doing. So we're still waiting word. I think we're going to get more information from Oklahoma City Police, which had the chase going. They pick up this pickup with the boat, and it was going up and down I-35, I believe, also I-40, and then they make the turn off there. But you see this guy driving out of control, hitting those construction zones, the cones there, and then here's at the very end. So he throws out the rifle. He gets out of the car, throws out the rifle, the AR-15 style rifle, and then when he gets out, he also kind of takes his shorts down to show that he's unarmed, and officers move in and take him into custody quickly.
And you just gave everybody a really good synopsis of what happened this afternoon. So backing up, this all started about 1:20 this afternoon. That's when we first started hearing on the scanners that officers may have been hit by gunfire. You saw Jim had gone out there to the original scene. Look at this, though. This is the end here. This is, of course, video of how this ended. But look at all the Oklahoma City police officers swarming. But you also have, it's the Air Force, it's the base. That's right where it ended, right there. So you have all of their officers as well. So
OHP also involved with this as well.
This guy had nowhere to go. So that's kind of just a good overview on exactly what happened. And you, right here on News 9, our viewers watched it all unfold. So this is where it started. And Jim was over this scene, and obvious that 2 deputies have been shot. That's video of one of the deputies being loaded into an ambulance right there. But you saw Air 1. Air 1 was waiting just in case that they said, no, we want you to take the deputy instead. They decided that the ambulance was the best way to go. It could get them to OU Medical Center, that level 1 trauma center, very quickly, and take them there. So that's where both of those deputies are there. There's the other deputy. So as Jim is watching this all unfold, he is hearing from his radio that Air 1 is beginning to take off, and they're going to start chase with the suspect.
Because they spot, I mean, Jim saying it earlier, too, it's pretty easy to spot a pickup truck towing a boat going on excessive speed, weaving in and out of traffic. So they got on the chase pretty quickly after this guy left his house.
Can't imagine this would be the vehicle of choice for somebody wanting to flee police. So we're still waiting on word if this is his vehicle and he just happened to have the keys, or if he stole somebody's vehicle. No word on that yet.
But what's amazing too is you know, we believe he was shooting out of this vehicle, shooting out of that AR-15, shooting out the vehicle, and that's crazy. And then we so far so good. No one else hurt during the chase.
Look at
this. But here he's got the gun there, and he tosses the gun.
Yeah, we're getting a really close shot of the video right there.
And then gets out. And why he turned here, we don't know yet. But obviously, maybe he was done. Maybe he saw there was nowhere else to go and just ended it here. Or maybe he made a mistake in getting off. Because basically it just filters all traffic there going south on Air Depot, filters right into the base.
Since we're talking about traffic too, all traffic is being redirected now to the Vance Gate, which is the Sooner Road Gate, because this is going to be closed for a while. This is where it ended right there. But yeah, so the chase, it's amazing, Carl, that this guy is firing right on the highway.
Firing rounds with his AR-15
nobody's
on
hit
I-35.
that we have heard of. And this is where it ends. So the 2 big points that we're trying to narrow down at this point is so importantly, the deputies, their conditions, how they're doing. The very last thing that we heard from the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department is that their injuries are, quote, serious.
We're going to go to the hospital, I believe. We're going to go to OU Health. Is that correct, folks? Just want to get perhaps an update on the deputies there. This is the scene here, the live shot from OU Health, and you can see all law enforcement there. I mean, it's not just OHP, but it's obviously deputies and Oklahoma City police officers as well. If we can get word, I think we have Augusta there. If Augusta could just kind of provide an update on what she's seeing, what she's hearing, if we're seeing a more influx of law enforcement there, as people kind of want to just find out how these deputies are doing. All right.
She's working on getting some more information for us, so we'll let her get that, and then we'll talk to her. But yeah, we just want to give you this live shot, and that's one of the main reasons we're staying with you right here on News 9, because we want to learn this, and we want to bring it to you as soon as we learn it as well. And what we anticipate hearing From here, we anticipate hearing we anticipate hearing when we go back to the Oklahoma City Police Department press conference, just hearing a little bit more about the conditions of the two deputies, but also about the suspect and the chase that they took over. So we have several scenes here and several different news conferences that we're anticipating, and that's why we want to keep it right here on News 9, keep it live with you guys, just so we can bring it to you as soon as we hear what's going on. You'll hear it as well. It's so emotional for these deputies here because of they know these people. You're explaining that they train with them, they know them, they work with them each and every day, and it could happen to them. And I think that's just the scary part of the job. Tommy Johnson, the sheriff, couldn't even talk about his deputies. He just got too emotional, and so did Aaron Brillbeck. But Aaron was basically saying, just pray for these guys. It's very serious injuries. And just said, pray for both deputies. We understand one of them was shot at least, 2 times in the chest is what we have heard. So, our prayers are obviously with them now. We have a little more with Aaron. And you could just kind of see, you could hear it in his voice, just how emotional he's getting, trying to kind of describe what happened to people he considers coworkers and friends.
Several deputies were serving lockout papers, very routine. At some point, the person who was inside the house opened fire.
Do we know the extent of the injuries at this time?
We know the injuries are serious.
To both deputies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear from the doctors exactly how bad things are, but they're serious. At this point, we're praying for both deputies.
What's your message to the community as everybody's waiting to find out their condition?
Pray.
So tough for Aaron there and Sheriff Johnson just to kind of provide just a few details on what happened because they're just so emotional there. Understandable.
Our hearts break with them for sure, as this is really hard. And Aaron closed by saying, they're my friends. And that's what this is. These are people who, they do put their lives on the line every single day, even though that this may be a routine part of their job, going out and serving these papers, but they put their life on the line.
And Aaron was saying that he goes out with these guys that are serving these papers, these lockout papers, and 9 out of 10 times it's fine. They serve the papers, they come back in a couple days, the people are gone. And at least in recent memory, Aaron couldn't think of any recent time that one of these deputies has been shot, especially doing this line of work. Very sad day for the Oklahoma County Sheriff Department for sure. We're still waiting to hear, if we can take that live look again from OU Med, the Level 1 Trauma Center, OU Health, that's where the 2 deputies are right now, and you can just see the law enforcement presence out there, outside of the ambulance area there, where those 2 deputies were rushed after being shot at about 2 hours ago. And this is the hospital has the best staff to do this. This is
they're very prepared.
Trauma 1, I mean, they don't go to just any hospital. They always go to OU Health for this reason. They're able to treat these kinds of injuries, and so that's what they do. And that's, I mean, no matter where you are in the city, right? I mean, you end up here at OU Health if you get shot. So, we're just praying that these 2 are going to hold on, because, if you're going off of what the sheriff said and how emotional it got, it doesn't sound good right now.
So we're going to bring you back to us here in the studio. Augusta McDonald, our reporter, is out there on the scene. She's working to get some new information, and as soon as okay, it looks like she's getting set up as we speak. If you need a break away from her, I get it. Okay, we'll go back out to her as soon as she can get set up, and we'll talk back with her there live at OU Medical Center, OU Health, just to see if she's heard any updates, or can at least just give us a better idea of what is going on around there outside, as we see a large presence of law enforcement holding vigil, if you will, outside.
Yeah, well, your heart sinks every time you hear that law enforcement, an officer's been shot.
No kidding.
A deputy's been shot, whatever, a trooper's been shot. I mean, it's just, all of a sudden, it's incredible. And, you don't think about it till that moment that, like, this is what they do every day. I mean, they do this, they put their lives on the line each and every day. And to have an outcome like this is just tragic. And so we are praying with you guys that these 2 are okay. But we're hoping to get word now. Let's go to Augusta McDonald, who's at OU Health now. Maybe an update on these deputies. Go ahead.
Lisa, in that presser earlier, what we were told by Sheriff Tommy Johnson is that these injuries are very severe and the deputies are taking visitors. They didn't say they were in surgery. They didn't say any other details except that these injuries are very severe. And as we saw, Sheriff Tommy Johnson losing control of his emotions and leaving that live interview completely overwhelmed. He said this was as routine of a day as it gets in their line of work, and actually they haven't had shooting like this of their own in 100 years. So a very rare incident, and the sheriff's office and all first responders here devastated by what's happened. We're waiting to find out what the conditions of both of these deputies is like at this time. We don't have any new information yet from that press conference just a little bit ago, but we're standing by to bring that to you as soon as it's available. We do know they haven't released the names of the deputies yet. With 30 minutes ago when we aired that press conference, they hadn't told their families, so we're still kind of waiting for all of those pieces to come into place before we can bring you those details. But we're standing by at the hospital, and we'll bring you more information as it becomes available. Augusta McDonald for Oklahoma's Own News 9. Back to you.
Augusta, I know you said that they are allowing visitors, people to come in and see the deputies. Can you give us a sense of what's that been like? Have you been able to watch as law enforcement has been going in and into the hospital?
There's been lots of traffic in and out of this emergency room and trauma center since the ambulances initially pulled up a couple hours ago. We stepped away from the door for privacy, but there is a lot of traction, a lot of commotion here, lots of vehicles. There's been probably dozens of Oklahoma City Police, Oklahoma County. We saw fire trucks here, lots of ambulances, and lots of people going in and out of this trauma center. As you saw in that press conference, though, Sheriff Tommy Johnson visibly shaken, completely overwhelmed, and then Aaron Brobeck, the information officer, devastated as well. Just tears and asking the community to pray as we wait for word on the conditions of both of those deputies.
Augusta, thank you. Thank you for being there and giving us a report live from OU Health as we pray for those two deputies who are inside there right now.
And taking visitors not in surgery, so we'll learn more hopefully soon what all that means. Let's go now back out to Tinker. I think that's where we have our Jennifer Pierce, who's set up, and she has been talking with Oklahoma City Police, who are taking over the investigation there. Jen.
Right, Carl and Amanda, this investigation here at Tinker Air Force Base has been going on since around 2 o'clock. And as you mentioned, Oklahoma City Police are handling this. They're also handling the shooting investigation. Their homicide unit handles all officer-involved shootings, whether they are fatal or not. And that was not far from here, Southwest 78th and Penn area. Now, those calls came in to police around 1 o'clock or a little after 1, so that gives you a time frame of how long police have been actively investigating this. Now, they do expect to be out here for quite a bit longer at this scene at Tinker. You can see behind me there are still the tow trucks waiting for the go-ahead to tow the suspect's vehicle and the boat away. Of course, CSI is out on scene to collect all the evidence for investigators. They will go over that to just put the entire investigation together. And we are waiting for Captain Valerie Littlejohn to do an interview with us, as I'm told that she is coming up behind us and is ready. Pardon, it will be Major Bo Matthews. He is the major over the homicide unit and has a lot of I guess, experience in the officer-involved shooting investigations and all of that goes on. Send it back to you guys, and we'll hear from Matthews here in just a moment.
Okay, Jen, yeah, go ahead and get set up, and then we'll go straight back out to you because that's where we hope to learn a little bit more information, especially as to how the chase started, how they saw this guy, and then how it, of course, ended right there at Tinker Air Force Base.
And who this guy is, right?
They
haven't released his information yet, but again, this all started right around after 1 o'clock today, about around 1:20 when shots were fired on two deputies serving lockout papers, kind of an eviction notice there. Shots coming from inside the house, hitting both deputies. Both deputies taken to the hospital, and then this guy got in a pickup truck, would tow in a boat, and then led officers on a chase that ended at Tinker.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that wild video, if we can re-rack that for you, we got to show that to you, because we talked about how this started, but then the middle, the chase, and that's when Air 1 went up. Bob Mills, Sky News 9, they were up, and they were watching this chase as well. I should mention you are watching News 9 at 4 o'clock as we're continuing our live team coverage after 2 deputies were shot here in Oklahoma City.
We're going to check in with Oklahoma City Police here shortly if we have them up. I know that I think it's Major Bo Matthews. They're almost set up, so when they start speaking, we'll go to it immediately. But right now, we are just thinking about these 2 deputies at OU Health taking visitors right now, not in surgery. And we just heard from Augusta McDonald explaining that there are law enforcement vehicles, OHP, Oklahoma deputies, Oklahoma City Police, firefighters are also showing up to the hospital right now. So that's where everyone just kind of gathered, just hoping these 2 deputies will pull through after being shot by this suspect.
The spokesperson for the Sheriff's Department, Aaron Brillbeck, he spoke also. One thing he mentioned is that how this really hasn't happened too often in their law enforcement history in the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office. In fact, we've had a chance, our staff has had a chance to look into that. According to the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, in the 131-year history of the office, 10 deputies and 1 canine have been killed in the line of duty. So it is not a frequent happening there. No. And especially in this line of work where Aaron said, the spokesperson said, that this is one of the most routine parts of the job when it comes to law enforcement. That's serving these papers. These guys do this day in and day out. It's what they do. They do it well. They are seasoned. He described them as both being very experienced and knowing what they're doing. And they travel in pairs as well for their safety. But then today, both of them were shot. Yeah,
and usually it goes smoothly. I mean, we were just talking about Aaron put it at 9 out of 10 times. And I think that the one time, it's not like anything like this happens. It's just the person doesn't really want to leave. But, you know, usually they go there, they serve this eviction notice, and then they show up a couple days later and that person is gone. That wasn't the case here. So it's shocked that it happened. But it's also just heartbreaking that you have 2 deputies now at the hospital being shot. Yeah.
So that's going on, and then we're expecting here momentarily Oklahoma City police officers to give us an update as to what we're all wondering who this guy is. I don't know how much information they're going to release about that, but at least we'll learn a little bit more about these shots that were potentially fired, that we've heard about, were fired right along a busy stretch of the roadway. Yeah,
that's the fortunate part about this, is that we're not hearing of any injuries that happened during the chase. And you saw that video from that viewer there. It looked like 24 Oklahoma City police cars were following behind this suspect. So that was Aaron right there. But it's just, here's that video right here. Look at how many police cars are right there, all following behind that guy that was hitting orange cones with the boat. You thought the boat might just swerve out the back and he might go tumbling. That wasn't the case, but you know, he could have hit someone else on the road very easily. Look at this guy driving. I mean, in the shoulder, he's driving erratically, going at a high rate of speed. He could have wrecked, he could have hit someone. He pulled off of I-40 and onto the air depot exit and ended up at Tinker, where he had nowhere to go, and that's where he surrendered. I don't know if that was his general plan or he just took a wrong turn, but maybe we'll learn more in the days to come there. But just the fact that this guy had this AR-15 firing out of it at law enforcement, that's nuts.
Right there in Midwest City, where it came to an end at Tinker Air Force Base. And that gate is going to be closed for some time as the investigation continues there at Tinker as to the chase. This is a close-up, and you can... Okay.
There goes the gun. There's the gun. He was firing, and he throws that down, I believe, and then he gets out and he starts taking his shorts down to show that he's not armed.
And maybe he's showing them, too, at this point, hey, I'm going to get rid of the weapon.
Yes, dump this.
And he realizes very quickly that there is nowhere to go because there is the gate right there, the Tinker Air Force gate. So nobody's going through that thing. So he's forced to stop. He ends up tossing the weapon and then getting out, hands up. Officers are very close behind him. He's even wanting to make sure they know that he doesn't have any weapons on him, pulling down his pants, and then they tackle him. And then one after another, Oklahoma City police ending this pursuit of this armed suspect.
And we're going to learn more here in a moment with the Oklahoma City Police Department that's taken over this investigation. both the shooting investigation and the chase investigation, and so we'll hopefully learn exactly who this person is. But and we don't know if this is, at some point we hope to learn if this was a planned stop, if this is where he said, okay, I got nowhere to go, or he was just driving and thought, okay, I'll turn here and see if I can get away.
Oh, there's nowhere else to go.
There's a roadblock there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tinker Gate is right there, so that's going to stop him one way or another. And he sure stopped right there, and that's where they took him into custody. So we heard from our reporters saying that they'll take him to get a medical check, pretty routine procedure in these types of cases. But then he's straight off to the Oklahoma County Jail, where he will sit and he will await to hear his charges. And we have to wait too. The charges really depend on the injuries that these deputies receive, and that's another thing we're waiting on, to hear the extent of the deputies' injuries.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll hear some encouraging news there. But if we're kind of basing that off of what we heard from Sheriff Tommy Johnson, just too emotional right at the start. I mean, 10 seconds in, he was losing it, understandably. Talking about his deputies, and then Aaron Brobeck had to finish, the spokesperson for Oklahoma County had to finish that news conference, basically said, pray for both these guys. That's what people can do right now, is pray for them. We're showing shots from the hospital, and you see all the different law enforcement showing up there. We have firefighters as well showing up there. We understand these deputies are taking visitors, not in surgery. We don't know what that means. We hope to learn more. We do want to get now the latest from Oklahoma City Police, though. They're going to give us a news conference that begins right about now. I think it's Major Bo Matthews.
She's getting ready right now. Bo Matthews actually is not going to do it now. We had heard he was. Now it's actually back to Captain Littlejohn. So she's going to be the one doing the press conference, the news conference. So as soon as she gets ready, they have so many people they have to talk to, these spokespeople for the Oklahoma City Police Department, so that they can then relay it to us. Let's go ahead and listen in.
3 deputies went to the 2200 block at Southwest 78th Street to serve an eviction notice. When they were at that residence, they started being shot at. 2 of the deputies were struck by gunfire. We know at least 1 deputy, if not more, was able to return gunfire at the suspect. 2 deputies were transported from the scene and taken to an area hospital. The suspect left in a vehicle. Description was given out. Oklahoma City police officers located that suspect vehicle short distance away shortly after the shooting occurred. Tried to stop the vehicle, and they were involved in a pursuit with the suspect, which led through the city and eventually ended here at Tinker Air Force Base. During that pursuit, the suspect was firing rounds at officers, and we had officers as well returning fire at the suspect. Once the suspect got here at Tinker Air Force Base, he ended up surrendering and was taken into custody by multiple agencies. From there, he was transported to a local hospital to be checked, and during the pursuit, it's fortunate that none of the other officers were injured or struck by the gunfire. At this time, it doesn't appear the suspect was struck by gunfire either. It's early on in investigation. We got a lot of different agencies involved, so there's limited information at this time. So as we get information as it comes along, we'll be able to pass that along to you all.
And you all were investigating the entire thing from the home to here being the chase?
Yes, the Oklahoma City Police Department will be investigating the shooting, the pursuit, and obviously our officer-involved shooting as well, all the way up to where he was taken into custody.
So when you know, was the suspect trying to get into Tinker Air Force Base? Was this their goal?
That I do not know. We don't, at this time, know why he came here, if he purposely drove here, or if he took a wrong turn. We don't have that information right now.
Are you able to release the suspect's name and age?
We're not releasing the name at this moment, but we will be releasing it tomorrow when we do our release on it.
And was anybody else inside his home when deputies came to serve the eviction notice?
That I'm not sure. I can't confirm if anyone else was inside the home. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I can't confirm that. I don't know at this time.
You may have mentioned, I wasn't able to hear you too well. Can you confirm any of the conditions of either the suspect or the two deputies that were shot at?
As far as the deputies go, we're going to relay that over to the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office regarding the deputies' conditions.
Do you have a message for the two deputies in the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department? I know they're hurting right now, and as people who work very closely with that department, I'm sure you have something positive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime that we have any of our law enforcement officers injured in the line of duty, we are always reaching out to them to offer anything, any type of help that we can, and prayers and anything that they need. We're going to be there to try to help them in any way, shape, or form.
Is it known right now if the suspect had any past criminal record, or is that something you will know?
No, I don't know of that right now, but it will be determined through the investigation. It'll obviously be investigated and looked at.
And was anybody, civilians, drivers, injured while shots were being fired to both police and from the suspect?
I haven't been told anyone else was injured at this time.
Again, can you say whether or not you know that the suspect was aiming to come here to Tinker Air Force Base?
I do not know if he was purposely coming here or not.
Can you describe the weapon that was thrown out of the vehicle?
He was in possession of, it appeared to be a long gun, a rifle that he had possession of when he was taken into custody.
Did you all find any other weapons inside the truck or the boat?
That I do not know.
How many current scenes are we investigating right now?
I'm sorry.
How many current scenes are we investigating right now?
Well, we have the scene where they were serving the eviction notice, the deputies, and where that exchange of gunfire took place. And then we have the highway where we know the suspect was shooting at officers and officers had returned fire. And then here at Tinker Air Force Base where he was taken into custody.
Can you describe what the investigation looks like here at the Air Force Base? What are we looking
Well, right now they're just doing our normal investigation. We have our crime scene unit out. They're going to process the scene. I believe they have this gate closed down right now, so they're referring anyone that's trying to get into Tinker to another gate, and they're just going to continue processing the scene and gathering as much evidence as possible.
So this gate and the other, there will be two scenes ongoing for a while?
Correct. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That is Captain Littlejohn there with the Oklahoma City Police Department, just giving us a news conference, filling in a lot of the missing pieces here as to this deputies being shot, leading to a pursuit, ending right there at Tinker Air Force Base where that news conference was happening.
And she described that 3 deputies actually showed up to serve these lockout papers, and 2 of them were shot. One was able to return fire. While she had her news conference going, we also had a news conference from the hospital with Sheriff Tommy Johnson, or at least providing information. And he was basically saying that the deputies were going around when they're at the back doors when one was hit, and then the second deputy was trying to get that deputy out of the way, and then that's when that person was hit. He also said there's 2 deputies, but anyway, so it sounded like there may have been a 3rd deputy. That was able to return fire.
Figure out. If we can, let's go ahead and take just a live look there at the hospital, because that is where Sheriff Tommy Johnson was earlier giving us information. Just looking at Augusta McDonald's notes, she's a reporter there on the scene. She's telling us that, yes, Sheriff Johnson said that 2 deputies, so there is a discrepancy exactly how many deputies were there serving the papers. But bottom line is that the individual, they contacted the individual at the front door. They ended up going around to a back door, and that is where the shooting began, right there. Ended up shooting a first deputy. According to the sheriff, that second deputy tried to get that deputy out of the way, and then they were struck as well, and both rushed right there to OU Med at the hospital.
And the guy taken into custody at Tinker Air Force Base tomorrow, we hope to learn his identity. They're not releasing the name just yet, but they say obviously that he was in possession of that rifle. She's also confirming that he was firing at police officers in pursuit, and police officers were firing at him, and it believes no officers were hit, and the suspect also wasn't hit, and no one else was injured during the chase part of all this.
Which is incredible. If we can re-rack that video, if you are just now tuning in to News 9 here at 4 o'clock as we approach that 4 o'clock hour, If you haven't seen this video of the chase, it is a miracle that nobody else was shot. Not only will you consider how this guy was driving, but that police did in fact confirm that he was firing with his rifle out the window at law enforcement, at Oklahoma City Police, and that they were returning fire as well. And we, on our end, we have not heard of any civilian being injured, any innocent bystanders being injured. This is the chase we're talking about right here. This is the suspect vehicle, and it's understandably, you can understand how they were able to spot this vehicle so quickly. I mean, the guy is towing a boat going at a high rate of speed there as he's heading eastbound. And
look at him taking out all those construction cones, all those barrels right there, just knocking them out of the way, using the shoulder.
And as this is going on, firing shots at officers, returning fire, and yet nobody that we've heard on our end, and Oklahoma City Police, they are not reporting any right now, anybody at least being injured or any damage from that gunfire.
And think of how difficult that is for Oklahoma City police officers to try to neutralize this guy. At the same time, you have other drivers on the road, so oh, okay. Well, all right, just repeat that again. I'm sorry. All right.
We're just getting some news that we did not want to have to pass along to you here at News 9.
One of the deputies shot has passed away, that according to Oklahoma County sheriff's officers. So that, you know, you heard it in Tommy Johnson's voice. I think
you saw it in his eyes.
He did, and we were just kind of, you know, hoping and praying that wasn't going to be the case, right? But
that a miracle would happen.
Yeah.
So the news as we get close to the 4 o'clock hour is that this has been a deadly deputy-involved shooting there, not too far from the airport. If you know where Will Rogers World Airport is, go a couple miles east of that in a neighborhood where deputies were going a routine day to serve some papers for an eviction notice. And now we know that one of the deputies that was shot, in fact, has died.
Yeah, and we're trying to learn if there's 3 deputies who were involved with this going to the house or 2. But Tommy Johnson providing some information at the hospital not too long ago, saying that these were they were serving these papers, and they made contact with the suspect at the front of the house, and then they went to the back, and at the back is where the shots were fired, and one deputy hit right away, and it was that second deputy pulling him away, and that person was hit as well. So it's just absolute tragic news this afternoon here.
Not the news that we wanted to be passing along to you. Both of those deputies were rushed to the hospital, where one has died. One now remains at OU Med, and the last news that we got was in serious condition. Both were described injuries as serious when we talked to the Sheriff's Department earlier on. So one deputy still fighting there with his injuries there at OU Health level 1 trauma center. So one of the best in the state when it comes to treating people with any gunshot wounds. So it's just sad news at this hour.
Well-trained deputies doing their job, and usually it works out just fine. They're serving these lockout papers, the eviction notices, and this is just a terrible, terrible day for law enforcement across the state.
So as often happens when we do these continuous coverage type events, some of you may just be joining us, and you might not be completely up to speed as to what happened, what unfolded throughout the day. I want to take you back a little bit just so you can understand what has happened leading up to this hour. Starting at about 1:20 this afternoon. This is when Bob Mills, Sky News 9, pulled up to this home, and this is near Southwest 78th and Penn. The actual address was the 2000 block of Southwest 78th Street, and when police officers got there, all they were responding to were shots fired and deputies were hit.
Yeah, and the deputies, of course, serving this eviction notice, and that's when he opened fire. We understand now from the back door of his home, hitting a deputy. Another deputy goes to try to take that deputy away. He gets hit. Both deputies rush to the hospital. We're hearing a third deputy may have been there as well, and that a deputy was actually able to return fire. But right after this, you see Air One landing in the street, presumably to be there to take one of the deputies to the hospital if they can. The guy takes off. He's got this pickup truck towing the boat, and then we counted at least like 24 Oklahoma City police vehicles not far behind. I mean, this guy wasn't gone for long before he was spotted, and driving like that, it's you know, it's no surprise there. This is where it ended. This is Tinker Air Force Base. That's the Air Depot gate. He exited off of I-40 onto Air Depot, went south, and all traffic south on Air Depot right there goes to Tinker. So he had nowhere to go. We're not sure if he did that by choice and wanted to just kind of give up there, or he took a wrong turn. But you see the gun right there by his door. That's the AR-15 that he was firing during this chase at law enforcement. He puts the gun on the ground, gets out, kind of takes his pants down to show that he doesn't have a weapon, and officers take him into custody there.
And police also confirm right now they don't know why he took that turn into Tinker Air Force Base. Presumably he was just hoping to get away, because at the rate he was going, he was wanting to get away, firing at officers as he was going down the road. But as it turns out, he had nowhere to go, so he had to give up once he hit the gate there. That gate still closed at this hour as we're taking a live look at the scene right now. Police still there, police still investigating the end of this pursuit. And we are now looking at the tow truck getting ready to tow away not only the car, but also the boat the truck was hauling.
Yeah, Jim, back up in the air here. Your thoughts on what's going on now there at Tinker?
Well, just like you said, and Amanda said there, Carl, the tow trucks have now moved in, which means that CSI is done with their field investigation at the scene. Now, they may be taken back to you know, a salvage area, and the investigation continue from there. But right now, they got 3 tow trucks out here. Now, I don't know if there was another car that was damaged in this or not, but they do have 3 tow trucks here. So 1 tow truck for the boat, 1 for the pickup. So I don't know if there's another car that was involved in this that was possibly hit when he came to a stop that the other 3rd tow truck is here for. But right now, they're getting this loaded up. So hopefully, once they get the boat and the pickup loaded up and get this cleared, then this gate will open back up. And like I said, it's about 3:53 right now, so it's been closed for quite some time. But again, it's sad to hear that one of those deputy sheriffs have passed away. Our prayers were with him, and so this is what's happening at the gate right now off Air Depot, which is the north gate into Tinker Air Force Base, where this pursuit ended. They are now starting to load the vehicles, and we'll get them out of here. Jim Garpoint live from Bob Mills, Cody's 9. Back to you.
All right, Jim, we appreciate it. Again, if you're just joining us, a deputy has been shot and killed by a suspect today. The suspect has been apprehended. 2 deputies shot. One of them has passed away at the hospital. The note from the spokesperson, Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, says the other one is stable right now. So the other deputy shot, stable at the hospital at OU Health.
No names are being released as in terms of the deputy who was killed, the deputy who was shot, or the suspect. We anticipate to hear those names tomorrow. I do want to share this with you, though, because I'm hearing from somebody who does know the deputy who died, and I just want to share this because this paints a picture of who he was. He was a good friend and loved his job. Said he worked at the jail. He said the inmates actually respected him, and how he dealt with them there, and everybody respected how he treated everyone else, and that he was loved for sure.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more from people who know him, and we'll be sharing that with you when the time is right on who this deputy was, and then also, boy, everybody's pulling for this other deputy who's there at the hospital as well.
And the encouraging news is that they're stable, and so not a lot to go on there, but you know, that's better than in surgery or whatever. So. Let's bring in Felice Romero, who's at the neighborhood there off 78th and Penn, talking to neighbors who heard the gunfire, and now this is officially a homicide investigation. Felice, go ahead.
Yeah, a very devastating update, Carl. One of those deputies passing away, and it all unfolded here. 2 of those deputies serving eviction notices when things turned, and then the suspect fleeing and getting arrested at Tinker Air Force Base. But we are seeing a lot of investigators going in and out of the home. As you can see, there is still a very heavy police presence. Now, we did ask a lot of neighbors who we spoke to, did you know the people that lived there? And for the most part, they say they really stayed stayed to themselves and didn't talk much with other neighbors. So we're still trying to learn if anyone knew them. But we will hear more from neighbors coming up about 4, just kind of seeing what they saw and how it all unfolded for them. For now, reporting live in Oklahoma City, Feliz Romero, Oklahoma Zone, News 9.
And Felice, we're trying to learn as much as we can about the suspect. I know we talked to you earlier, but we're just kind of getting word from neighbors out there if they knew this guy at all, saw him around the neighborhood much, or what have folks been telling you there?
I mean, really, they are saying that they really didn't see them much. They didn't really talk to them, and these people apparently didn't go out a lot in the neighborhood. So most of the people that I've been speaking to say they've been really talking with other people who have kids, and they see them out in the neighborhood. But as far as the people who lived in that home, they really don't know much about them.
Okay. But it sounds like he didn't live alone. Was he living alone, or you said we? I mean, the guy married, had a girlfriend, whatever.
It sounds like they were multiple people. Again, I'm not sure the relation between those two people, but it did sound like there were more than one person living in that home.
Okay, Felice, thank you.
Just to put this into perspective, too, for you at home listening, that this is very rare that this happens with the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department. In fact, they couldn't think back to the last time it happened. A little bit of research on our end, according to the Sheriff's Office, in the 131-year history of the office, it was 10. Unfortunately, now 11 deputies and 1 canine have been killed in the line of duty while working. Of course, the latest being today.
The last deputy killed in line of duty, 1935. Wow.
And then, of course, we have today, just after 1 o'clock, at least two deputies go to serve eviction notices to a house, and then they get met by gunfire. And then very short time after that, that's when the chase ensued. They're going toward Tinker Air Force Base. And this is our live look from Jim Gardner and Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Jim, it looks like they got the boat loaded up on the tow truck.
That's right, Amanda. Now, then the pickup, and like I said earlier, they got a third tow truck here. I don't know if he's there just for support or if there's another vehicle involved in here. When this pursuit ended, he was weaving in and out of cars there until he came right up almost to the gate. So I don't know if there's another car that was damaged in this or not, but they've got the boat there, then they'll get the pickup, and then hopefully Amanda and Carl that they'll open this gate back up and get it back open, because like I said, it is 3:58 now. This all started at around 1, a little after 1:20, somewhere around there, and so it's been shut down for quite some time. So again, the record crews are in, which means CSI is done with their investigation on the scene here, and they're just get all this cleared up, and hopefully the gate will open back up shortly after that. Jim Gardner live from Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Back to you.
Okay, Jim, as we continue to take a live look from Midwest City there at Tinker Air Force Base, where the chase ended and the suspect has been taken into custody. That suspect, after he was taken into custody by Oklahoma City Police, he was taken to get checked out, just a medical checkout, to make sure that he is okay to go on to the Oklahoma County Jail, where he will then face presumably murder charges for what happened today. Of course, we'll wait for those official charges to come, and we should learn those within a day or two.
The other deputy shot, stable right now at OU Health, so we're hoping that they pull through. As soon as we learn more there, we'll pass it along. But this all started with both these deputies, and there may have been 3 deputies, kind of depending on which agency you're asking in this, and we'll find that out here later. But they were serving lockout papers, an eviction notice. They met the suspect at the front door. Then they go around to the back door, apparently, and that's where one suspect was hit right away, shot by that suspect, that one deputy, and then the other person, the other deputy, grabs that deputy, tries to get them out of the way, and that's when that second deputy was hit.
And we can see right now that the boat that truck was hauling, the suspect was hauling, that boat is being towed off. So that is the start of that gate being cleared there at Tinker Air Force Base. But again, they're having all the traffic go over to the Vance side if you have to get on base right there, because that gate is closed.
The chase was a wild one. It wasn't very long, but it was a wild one with this guy towing that boat right there, and the video of it is nuts that we got from Jim Gardner in the air earlier, and you may have watched it live as well. But this guy was high rate of speed, towing the boat, going the shoal. It looked like that boat was going to spin out. He was firing, according to police. He was firing at officers. Officers also were doing their best to fire at him, but at the same time, I mean, look at this right now. This guy's out of control. That boat could easily flipped, and he could have gone into another car, another vehicle there on the road. So it's kind of miraculous that at least from this point on, no one was hurt. But just a crazy scene. We have more team coverage coming up here, News 9 at 4 o'clock.
Right now, you're looking at that suspect vehicle, the one with the boat, pulling the boat. He is the suspect in the shooting of the sheriff deputies.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to keep it together for you.
At this point, we're praying for both deputies.
Well, we begin here, News 9 at 4 o'clock with this breaking news. One deputy, an Oklahoma County deputy, has died after 2 deputies were shot at a home in southwest Oklahoma City. They were serving an eviction notice when the suspect began firing.
Oh, such a sad afternoon, a sad turn of events, and we have reporters on the scene of the shooting where the chase ended, where the one deputy is now recovering following the shooting. And News 9's Augusta McDonald, she has been right there at OU Med, the Level 1 Trauma Center, as both those deputies were rushed there. Let's go ahead and check in with her. Augusta?
I was here when ambulances were rushing both deputies here to the emergency room. Now we have a devastating update. We know one of those deputies has passed away. The Oklahoma County Sheriff telling us a little bit earlier exactly how this shooting occurred. There are 2 deputies who were shot today. One of them was shot while trying to rescue the other while they were serving routine papers, is what the sheriff said. This was as routine of a day as it gets. And now with some of the research our newsroom has done, we know it's been almost 100 years since a deputy was shot and killed from Oklahoma County. Let's hear a little bit from Sheriff Tommy Johnson from his words earlier.
Law enforcement is a tight community, and I'm so thankful. They were screaming across the state for my guys.
Certainly a tight-knit community, as you can see behind me here at the hospital. Dozens of first responders, law enforcement agencies, fire trucks, ambulances, a huge community of support here to support those deputies. And we're waiting to hear how the second deputy is doing. We know he's stable, hoping for the best. At the hospital, Augusta McDonald, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Augusta, thank you for being there and bringing us those words from the sheriff. It was just so emotional to hear him earlier on.
Yeah, he couldn't make it through the news conference today.
So tough.
Yeah.
Jennifer Pierce, she has been following the other part of this story for us. We had the chase and then where it all ended just outside of Tinker Air Force Base, where that shooting suspect, he gave up.
Yeah, she is outside the air depot gate on the north side there of Tinker. Jen, what can you tell us?
Well, Carl, this was a peaceful ending here at Tinker Air Force Base. The suspect, who has not been identified at this time, did surrender. From what I understand, he ran into one of the gates. We're still learning why he came this way, but he was hauling a boat and traveled from the original shooting scene, which is near Southwest 78th and Penn, where the 2 deputies were shot. We know 3 Oklahoma County deputies were serving an eviction notice on that home, and the suspect fired at the deputies. One of the deputies was able to return fire. The suspect was not injured in this, and amazingly, during the pursuit that started on I-44 and then came over to I-40, shots were exchanged between the suspect and Oklahoma City police officers. Amazingly, no one that we know of was injured or harmed during that pursuit, either by the suspect's gunshots or police gunshots. But again, it did come to an end here at the Tinker Air Force Base. The gate, the visitors building, is just behind me, behind the trees. So we're not really able to see a lot, but we do know that there are 3 tow trucks here to tow away the suspect's vehicle and that boat. Crime scene investigators are also here and have been here for a while to collect all of the evidence. Police did confirm they did take 1 gun into custody, and that was the The gun, the long gun, the rifle, the suspect used to shoot at the deputies and then at police officers during the pursuit. As far as I know, and what they said, they did not find any other weapons inside the truck, on the suspect, or in the boat. And here's Captain Littlejohn on there looking into all of the details on this, and one of them being why he decided to come this way.
We don't, at this time, know why he came here, if he purposely drove here, or if he took a wrong turn. We don't have that information right now.
Again, still a lot of questions. This investigation is early for police. You know, we have a lot of questions. The public has a lot of questions, but police have to cross all their T's, dot all the I's when releasing any kind of information and giving out those details. We do know that homicide, Oklahoma City's homicide department, does handle the officer-involved shooting. They do that whether it's fatal or not, and that will take quite a while, and we also know that this investigation here at Tinker will take quite a while. As you know, we've been here since 2 o'clock. It's very slow moving, just so they can take all the pictures and get all the evidence that they need. Reporting live at Tinker Air Force Base, Jennifer Pierce, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Jen, thanks. And we're told more information on the suspects going to be coming out tomorrow. This whole thing got started with these deputies going to serve basically an eviction notice at this home near Southwest 78th and Penn. Right. And that's where the suspect from the back door, what we understand, opened fire on the deputies. One deputy hit, the other deputy comes in, tries to move the other deputy, and that's when he was hit too.
So where you saw Jennifer Pierce just reporting from, just go about 10 miles west of that as we get a little bit closer to Will Rogers World Airport. It's a neighborhood just about a mile from OCCC, the college there, and that is where we find Felice Romero. That's where this all started. That is the neighborhood where the shots rang out, and these deputies just went to do what was considered routine work. Felice?
Yeah, neighbors very shaken up out here. We now know that deputies were in this neighborhood serving an eviction notice when both of them were shot, and then the suspect taking off before being arrested at Tinker Air Force Base. We spoke to one neighbor and father who says he saw cops flying down this street, and within 15 minutes got a notification from his kids' school that they were on a brief lockdown. He says he's lived here for a few years, and this is by far the scariest situation he's seen unfold in his neighborhood.
I mean, it's kind of sad for sure, you know, because we do have a lot of children. Like I said, like the house right there has 3 kids. My buddy next to me has kids. I have 2 kids. They got like 5 kids. So, I mean, yeah, definitely to have something like this going on in the neighborhood, yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Now, we have been asking neighbors if they knew who lived in the house or anything about them. They said for the most part, they really were to themselves and they didn't have much interactions with them. Of course, we'll have more on this story throughout the night. Reporting live in Oklahoma City, Felice Romero, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Felice, thank you. Thank you for bringing us a sense of what's going on there in that neighborhood where the shooting happened.
We want to get some perspective now from Jim Gardner, who was in the air basically right after the shots were fired and followed the suspect all the way to Tinker, where he gave up. Jim, your thoughts on just what you saw this afternoon with this chase?
Well, you know, anything like this, Carl, it's just amazing that nobody got hurt. I mean, you know, our prayers are with the deputy and the prayers are with the other deputy, that passed family. You know, that's at the scene, but when that left the scene and that pursuit picked up with that pickup pulling that boat and him firing a long rifle, or what looked to me like an AR-15, out the window at deputies, there's so much other things that could go wrong and could happen. I mean, if that boat would have came off, we could have had no telling what kind of accidents on I-35 or I-40. If one of those stray shots went into another car, you know, just so many things could have happened. And the good thing is it ended in a peaceful way when he made that turn here on Air Depot and pulled into Tinker. Right now, you know, you kind of look back on it and you're just kind of amazed that nobody else was injured in this at all. But right now we're looking here at Tinker Air Force Base. They took the boat out, they took the pickup out. They're now taking a Oklahoma City police officer's car. So, you know, it makes you wonder if this is a car possibly took some rounds in the radiator, in the, you know, or in the windshield, or something. You know, hopefully it's just a normal breakdown here, but we just don't know that, and we'll find out later. But that's what that third record was for, was to remove this Oklahoma City police vehicle right here. But Yeah, Carl, you know, in anything, your adrenaline's very high, you know. With my job, it's you know, you're flying, you're talking to whoever you need to talk to, Will Rogers Tower, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma City approach, other helicopters that are around you. Air One, you want to make sure you give him plenty of room when he's over the scene maneuvering. You don't want to crowd him at all because he could be low level, that he could pop up, he could do. So you want to give him plenty of room, and then plus, you know, fly the helicopter and you know, everything else. So, you know, when it all kind of ends, you kind of look back going, you know, and thinking, man, if that boat would have came off here, or if he would have done this, or if he would have done that, or a stray round would have crossed one of the interstates. So things like that always kind of go through your head after the deal. But anyway, we'll keep you updated, Carl. Jim Gardner reporting live for Bob Mills, Scotty's 9. Back to you.
Jim, we appreciate your coverage this afternoon. Thank you.
We're going to continue this live team coverage as we have been following all afternoon. One deputy shot and killed, and then another deputy right now at OU Med in stable. We don't know his condition, but at least he's been stabilized right now. The suspect is in custody, but again, we are following this from all the different angles, so keep it right here on News 9. We'll be back with more right after this.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
Risky Todd Russ wants to be state treasurer. That's scary. The FDIC called Russ's bank management unsafe and unsound, and Russ voted for the largest tax increase in state history and voted to raise your gas tax. We can't trust Risky Todd Russ. The Conn's Labor Day